Our goal is to have fish be able to reach all the way up to Kent's Falls for the first time since the Revolutionary War. And this is a major step in that direction.
David Minkoff, a U.S. Fish and Wildlife biologist, says the dam removal project has been years in the making. It recently was made possible with funding from the Lake Champlain Basin Program, Trout Unlimited, and others. The project will take several weeks to remove the final remnants of the Indian Rapids and Friedenberg Falls dams along the Saranac River. John Wiley, a senior hydropower biologist at U.S. Fish and Wildlife, says the work should clear the way for Atlantic salmon to make their way back to their native spawning grounds on the Saranac near Kent's Falls. But first, they'll need to make it past the Imperial Mills Dam, which is further downstream in Plattsburgh.
Any work on salmon restoration in this part of the river was kind of dependent on the first dam being passable.
And right now, plans are in motion to create a fishway at the Imperial Dam.
So in 2 years, that fishway will be finished. Salmon will be able to make it up to here, and we wanted to get this out before they came up here.
Minkoff says the end result will mean a passable waterway for the Atlantic salmon that's been cut off for hundreds of years.
A little over 30 miles of main stem Saranac River and tributary habitat for spawning Atlantic salmon.
In addition to restoring the waterway for salmon, Wiley says it will also benefit people who use the river for recreation.
This is the Northern Forest Canoe Trail, and this right now is a portage or a dangerous run for folks coming down one of the largest, most significant canoeways, in the country.
Corey Miller, who is with the Lake Champlain Basin Program, said the dams did not serve as a flood control measure and were only used for hydropower.
These dams that are not built for flood control, when you take them out, they actually have flood resilience benefits for communities downstream and upstream, for the habitat. They reconnect rivers to floodplains. There's less scour. There's a lot of benefits for flood resilience in most cases for taking dams out that aren't flood control dams.
And we're joined now by Bill Wellman and Don Lee with the Lake Champlain chapter of Trout Unlimited. Gentlemen, great to see you again.
You
Welcome.
too, Tom. Thank you.
You're part of this project as well. Your organization helped make it possible.
Yes, we did.
That's true. We've spearheaded this effort to get improvements on the Saranac for years, and we are elated that it's finally coming to fruition.
Why is this project so important?
Well, it's important because the most prolific river on Lake Champlain for Atlantic salmon reproduction is the Saranac. It's the bottom of the river, the cobble, the stones, the gravel that they need to spawn in the habitat, and it was perfect for them.
So this will be a major step forward, getting these two dams removed.
It will.
This is a major step. This is a historic step forward. Salmon were extirpated in Lake Champlain probably about 1856, as far as native salmon go. So now we're finally getting salmon back, and there's salmon already being restored in the Bouquet. Salmon are reproducing in the Bouquet, which is another historic step forward. And when we restore the Saranac to salmon reproduction, this will be, as I said earlier, a historic event for conservation, for fisheries, and for the American landscape.
So the next step in all of this is the Imperial Mills Dam.
It's the last barrier, and it's slated for a fish ladder. We prefer to have it removed, but we had to compromise. We got these two dams. We had scheduled to get these two dams removed upriver, and to increase the habitat.
So the hope is the fish ladder at Imperial Mills will be in by about 2026.
That's what we understand.
That's
right
what we
now.
understand. Yes.
And are they effective? Do they help salmon get upriver?
There are various and divergent opinions on the effectiveness of fish ladders. The most effective fish ladders are probably about 50% effective. But we decided that some fish over the dam beats no fish over the dam. And with the removal of the other two barriers, we decided that we would lay off some of our opposition to the Imperial Dam, as we fought for years to have it removed. And now we're going to settle for a fish ladder, but half a cake sometimes beats no cake.
And if you get the salmon through Imperial Mills, through these two dams that are being removed now, then do they have one more fish ladder that they have to navigate?
They do, and that's kind of the rub right there, that you have two fish ladders. They got to go one at Imperial Mill, then there's one up at Treadwell Mills that was built back in the middle 80s, I believe, and they have about a 30-foot height they have to get up and over. So We'll see. We're hoping that it's all going to work, and so it's never been, the dam has never, the fish ladder's never been used up there, and now they're going to make it happen. So
the success of the fish ladders will open up about 17 kilometers of great spawning water for salmon.
How is the population of the Atlantic salmon in the Saranac and in Lake Champlain?
it varies. We had pretty good population of Atlantic salmon, and then along came the lamprey, the sea lamprey. It attaches to the fish like a there's a parasitic kind of thing, and they suck the bodily fluids out. And there's a chemical that we use that will actually, it doesn't kill any other non-target species, and it's pretty much targeted to the sea lamprey. And you can't kill the adults, you have to kill the little amicetes.
So as the rivers get treated, is that cutting down the number of lamprey, and is that helping the salmon population bounce back?
It's been fantastic. We've got it's been a great cooperative thing with the Vermont and New York and Fish and Wildlife.
Your group, Trout Unlimited, has worked for a number of years to try to help the salmon population. You work with classrooms and kids.
And we take the kids up to the hatchery up in Lake Clear, and they get a couple of hundred eggs, or 200 or 300 eggs, and they put them in their classroom. We transport them to about 25 different schools. Some schools have 2 or 3 tanks in their schools. And from second grade all the way up to high school.
Yes.
And the kids, they watch the eggs hatch into a little alvin, which is an egg sac or sac fry, some people call it.
Yeah.
Then they turn into a fry, which is about, an inch and a quarter to something like that, and a little bit bigger. You and I would call them minnows when we were kids. Well, they get a feeling for what's in the river besides a place to throw their garbage. And they understand when you tell them about the life cycle, they get on it. When you tell them that the salmon are an indicator species of our environment, they got to have cool, clean water. They won't live in places where there's garbage and pollution and stuff like that. They understand that. And these younger guys and gals, they're with it.
You've also been working with New York DEC on a pilot program. They've been bringing young salmon to Lake Champlain, right near the mouth of the Saranac River.
These are special salmon. These are raised in the Eisenhower Hatchfield over in Pittsfield, Vermont. For about the last 2 years, we've had these pens. We put 6 of these big pens. They're 20 feet by 20 feet long and about 10 feet around. And we put 26,000 of these salmon parr in there. And then the parr would go through a process called smoltification. They grow about an inch and they get real silvery, and they look very much like an adult salmon, only they're only about 6-7 inches long. Then we release those at the mouth of the Saranac River, so they'll imprint on the Saranac River. And then we take another 26,000 and we actually put them right in the Saranac River. We're trying to see which ones are doing the best. We've done this for 2 years now, and this year we should be getting some good sampling back of the fish coming into the river. Again, it's attempting to increase the stocks in the Saranac River.
Is the thought, by putting them in those pens for that period of time, that it sort of gets imprinted on them and they'll return there when they're old enough to spawn,
they'll return to the smell of the river.
Now this is the same scientific mechanism in the salmon, and Lake Champlain salmon have an easy time of it, compared to Pacific Coast salmon, who use the same mechanism, which is a tiny bone in their head, which lets them detect and analyze the water that they were spawned in and return to that water. And on the Pacific Coast, of course, you've got fish coming back 2,000 miles, come back to their natal home using the same mechanism. So this is a kind of imprinting which takes place while they're at a certain stage in life that lets them return to their native spawning ground.
So the hope is they'll come back to the Saranac.
Yeah, exactly. So like a female salmon that's 8 pounds will usually have about 8,000 eggs. But out of that 8,000 eggs, those that are going to come back as adults to spawn in the river, normally only 2. 4 will make it back, but only 2 will live to, that's the statistical average, Tom. So sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less.
And this is a pilot program here, but in other parts of New York it's working effectively? Ontario and
Ontario,
Ontario is working the same program.
Same way, same thing. Yes.
Salmon fishing is big here in the Plattsburgh area and on the Saranac River. It's a big economic driver, and fishermen obviously love to come to the Saranac and to find lots of salmon.
It's a passion, actually. I mean, it's a particular kind of fish. If you want to go fish where you're going to catch fish, you don't want to go for Atlantic salmon because it's called the fish of 1,000 casts. But why they will take a fly, nobody knows, because when they come back to the rivers to spawn, they don't feed in the river at all. So why will they take something fur and feathers that somebody tied onto a hook? We all know it. Everybody thinks they got their special fly that works better than anybody else's. But, you know, I think it's just whatever you have on the end of your hook that you cast out there and you feel good about it and you cast it. But they do take a fly occasionally, and when they do.
It's your hope that in a few years you may be able to go up to Kent Falls and up to that part of the Saranac River and see salmon.
And we've already put special regulations for Kent Falls area. So that up there's a no-kill zone. We did that because we want the salmon to go up there to spawn, and they'll be jamming up in that area. And we thought this will protect some of those salmon.
How will that be in a few years if you go up to that section of the Lower Saranac and see salmon?
We hope that a reasonable fisherman, using good ethics of course, will be able to catch a salmon and enjoy the pleasure that a fisherman has when he hooks and lands the queen of sports fish.
Bill Wellman, Don Lee, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Tom.